Hey everyone, it's Rick Carson. We're back at the beautiful Make Believe Studios, and we're here to talk about this API shootout that we are about to get into. And I'm just going to jump right out with it. I love the sound of this API legacy. I think its channels sound great. I think its stereo bus sounds great. I hate the way the equalizer sounds. And it's not a bad equalizer. The 550L is just different from other API equalizers. It's got no 2520s in it. It's got no transformers. It's full of 2510s. And I've always felt this way, and I've done comparisons before. But again, today, after listening to it, I will say that I think that the 550A, which we're not even going to get into today, but the 550A and the 550B are both better sounding equalizers to my ears than the 550L. And that's going to play a part in my decision-making process that we get into today. So first off, I think that the Legacy sounds better when it comes to summing in the stereo bus. People have brought up that the 1608 may have a headroom problem, and it seems like that was a bigger issue on the original version of the 1608, but the Legacy has massive amounts of headroom. You know, the 2510s run at plus and minus 28 volts or 32 volts, something like that. They just have tons and tons of headroom, where the 16 volt rails that are running the 1608, you can actually kind of hear them give out a little bit. And on the example we have, there's an 808 that comes around every once in a while, and you can hear on the 1608 bounce that it kind of craps out in a way that isn't the most flattering. It's not bad by any means, and you could definitely make it work in a mix, but it does do that. And that was when we were feeding the console with -7 levels. So when you're going at full scale, you know, both of these consoles are clipping if you're hitting them very hard. I just believe that the Legacy does it in a much more musical way, in a way that brings something to the table that I could try and work into a mix versus something that I would be trying to live underneath and trying to keep away from. If you push into the Legacy, it kind of blows up and goes a little bit, where the 1608 just kind of turns into a little bit of a chunky square wave. That said, I also compared the 1608 to straight Pro Tools, and that was a very interesting comparison to me, because there was a little bit of a mid-range murk and a little bit of a low-end drop-off that I heard when comparing the two bounces. And the Legacy sounded more open, more exciting. Pro Tools sounded just straight through with nice extended low end, and the 1608 really was my least favorite of the three in the comparison today. And I think that's interesting, especially for people who are interested in using a 1608 as a mixing console. For me, the stereo bus doesn't bring a lot to the table when it comes to the 1608. So if I were to use it as a mixing console, I may be trying to avoid it. And one of my good friends in Chicago, Matt, has a 2448, and he does pretty much that, where he's just using the channel strips the same way that I'm inserting the channel strips on my SSL. So I found that very interesting. And when it comes to the channel strips of the 1608 versus the Legacy, I actually found them relatively comparable. Sure, there's less features, but both of them sounded great. And ultimately, in the test that we did, I did a test that I felt like was more important than just having two things that sounded relatively similar, which was shooting out the equalizers. And I put a 550B into the 1608, and we had the 550L in the Legacy. And I think that that's really where it starts to step apart, in my opinion, in the 1608's favor. You know, the 1608 gives me access to 24 500 series slots, as well as an extra 16 microphone preamplifiers. And I think that those 500 series slots may be worth what I'm trying to accomplish in and of itself. One, there's a lot of flexibility there, but two, I just think that it sounds a little bit better. We did a pretty straight comparison where we utilized a mono Coles over a drum set, and we boosted a little bit of 100 and we boosted a little bit of top end on each one of these equalizers to see what they brought to the table. And I think that the 550B is just more solid, less mushy, and more pleasing to listen to. And I'm excited to have a console full of these things. And there's the tech costs. You know, I saw someone make a comment about how we should send this console back to API and have them refurbish it and put DB25s and pull all the Elcos. And when I read comments like this, I just understand that there's a lot of people out there that have no idea what it's actually like to own a recording console. One, a manufacturer like API isn't interested in taking a console like this back. And if you were to send this back to the actual manufacturer like API, I'm assuming that it would cost you pretty much the whole console again in refurbishment, which is why most of these things are refurbished by outside techs. And the majority of techs who deal with this console are going to be based in Nashville or Los Angeles, which we happen to not be based in. So that would still be, traveling someone out here for a long time or traveling the console away. And right now the console works great, but to fully refurbish it is one of those things where in my mind, you'd be replacing every switch and every little thing that could go wrong with the console. And I've seen some of these jobs done on some of these APIs, and I'm just happy that this one is in the condition that it's in. A lot of these legacies get to the point where you can't utilize them unless you're using toothpicks to keep the, buttons in. And this one, every button still relatively functions on the console. There's a couple little things here and there that cause noise, particularly the equalizers. You'll hear something, crap out a little bit, and you'll tap the EQ and it'll come back to life. But the number one reason why it's time for the legacy to go and the 1608 to come in is that I don't have to keep the 1608. What I'm really looking forward to is the patch bays and all of the cabling that I picked up in this deal. I'm excited to work with my buddy Ben over at Trace to come up with some new solutions for how to wire this studio, because while the 1608 may be in here now, it may not be in here in the short future. There's a couple really cool consoles that have come out recently. SSL's got some new stuff going on, and there's also some stuff that hasn't been announced that I've been kind of hearing about through the woodwork that I'm very, very excited about. And having this room set up to be in a position where it can accept something that just slides in through DB25s. Even if I have to change all of the cabling in the room and I have to hook it all back up to DB25, that's way easier than repinning everything from these Elco bays and punch down bays. So ultimately, I do believe that it is time for the legacy to go. So I'm announcing that it is for sale. We will be putting it up on Reverb shortly. And also the 1608 is for sale. While it's going to be installed in the studio now, if you are really, really interested in it, please let me know, because I do have my eyes set on something else. So I'm excited to make a couple records on it. I'm excited to go in. I'm excited to change the studio over to DB25 bays, but keep an eye out for what we'll ultimately be putting in this room. Catch up with it. Bye. I see the